Are you talking about the latest instrument panel?
Yes.
355,000 trucks.
It's unreal. Totally unreal. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, it's just critical information though, like speed and stuff. So I wouldn't worry that much about it.
Yeah, right.
Most drivers can kind of, you feel it anyway. But
yeah,
this is software eating the car. It's going to probably continue. I think it's going to continue for a while. It's been happening since 2020, and I think it's just it gets bad. And then after they catch up, you got to hope that they'll stop trying to innovate on the software side, and then they'll just kind of catch up and play quality for the next couple of years and get everything stabilized.
Agreed.
But
while we're in the topic of recalls, I thought this might be a perfect time frame to show this chart I saw today. I don't know if you guys can see this. I'm going to see if I can zoom in a little. Let's see, does that make it bigger?
Yeah.
Okay. So I saw this today by NHTSA recalls, and it broke down the different brands. And this was updated from this morning, because this morning it showed 104 recalls. So now it's added. Of the entire industry, Ford Motor Company has 39% of all the recalls. And what's wild is this even encompasses companies like Forest River, and Jayco, and Autocar, and Mack Trucks. I mean, international, just wild. And so I think the part that's interesting when I look at this pie chart, and it's not picking on Ford, but sort of am, there's other players on this. It's not just Ford. You can see Chrysler's got 9%, 23 recalls, Volkswagen, 18 recalls, General Motors, 16. And that's a wild one. The General Motors one to me is the most wild, because think about their engine recall.
Yeah, that's engine and transmission.
So this is, I think, where data can make people feel bad. Like if you told me, if you said, hey, you have to pick a truck right now, you have 1 hour to do it, I would probably pick a Ford over a GM if it was like a 6.2 or a 5.3 engine versus a 2.7 or a 3.5, only because I think that Ford's engines are at least a little more reliable. I think the transmissions are kind of like on par with problems.
Yep.
But Ford has better, like Nate was saying, Ford has better part supply, so they can at least get you back on the road. But I think a lot of these recalls, I'm not positive because I haven't gone through everyone. Are they all electronic, or tons of them over the air updates, or not?
So here's what's cool about this. So I'm going to just show you guys, so for people watching, I'll put a link down below. But what's cool about this is it breaks down by manufacturer. You click on this pie chart again. Now it's going to be focused on Ford. And then of Ford's recalls, 24% of them are electrical. Wow. 15% is back over prevention. So I see this as more like safety systems, ADAS, things of those specific nature. Then you see powertrain is 12% of the recalls. No value. So from what I understand, this is like a miscellaneous area that doesn't have a straight classification. Then you've got service, brakes, hydraulic. Then you got visibility issues, exterior lighting, suspension, seat belts, structure, fuel system, and lastly, airbags. So, I mean, it tells a story. And what's interesting is look at the shape of this pie chart, and you can see that electrical's the monster. Let's just go over to here to Chrysler and see where Chrysler's pie chart is completely different. They're struggling more in the systems area. That's 35% of their issue. And then airbags are 13%. And then electrical system is 13%. So they've got different issues. And what's interesting is when we go in here, you notice what I don't see in this area, guys? I don't see anything powertrain related.
Mm-hmm.
So for Chrysler, that doesn't seem to be a big issue right now, is powertrain. So that's good. And then when we go to General Motors, look at this for General Motors. General Motors is they're miscellaneous. So my guess is this GM is probably managing their recalls with a little bit different nomenclature. Because I mean, for 25% of it to be the miscellaneous claim, because I thought the biggest one would be right here, engine and cooling. And that's only 6% of their recall. You see electrical 13%, structure. Let's just see what's this. I want to see by the, engine doesn't really give a breakdown of what that is specifically. Let's see. summary table, engine and cooling. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I don't know. The bottom line is too many recalls doesn't. I think people are or customers are getting tired of little things not working, like whether it's electronics, your infotainment system, you're getting over the air updates for things all the
100%.
time. I think they're just consumers are getting a little frustrated. They just want everything to stabilize. And then when you add in powertrain stuff on top of it from all the manufacturers, people are just kind of like, really?
100%.
I did want to throw this in though. I think, I'll give GM credit. I know they're having lots of transmission and engine problems, but to me, it seems like their electrical system is the least laggy out of all of the systems, as far as being in the
Infotainment,
the cameras working, things really being quick when you're pushing on them. I think that's where like Ford and Ram have a little bit more. You kind of push that button and you wait.
Yep.
Ram has gotten better, and I think that's what a lot of their recalls have came up. I think that, the biggest thing for them is they went to that new architecture this year. Nobody else has done that. So they just switched over to their different architecture. And I think that we'll see those recalls start to peel down some. But yeah, I think GM, the transmission and engines are the highest part of that.
Yeah, I agree. It's interesting because we've all talked about this in the channel before, is there's no perfect manufacturer. You kind of got to give and take for all these different manufacturers. Like, I think probably most of us would agree, if there's one transmission that seems to be solid, robust, and reliable, it's the ZF8 Speed across the board. It's solid. And then, like you were saying, Car Guy, if you took a Ford 2.7, that's a solid powertrain. I feel like for the most part, reliability is pretty good on those. But everybody's struggling. The infotainment thing is the most frustrating to me, because there seems to be, if you're on a phone call and you're going to connect to your vehicle, you're almost better to hang up the phone call, get in the vehicle and connect and make the call back, because there's something about that transition from the handset or your Bluetooth, your AirPods to the vehicle that just makes the whole system go wonky. It's not just a Ram thing. I've had the same issue with every manufacturer. Car Guy, you're going to love this. Actually, the one brand I found was consistently good on this was my 2022 Toyota Sienna. Dude, that infotainment from on a phone call to getting in the vehicle was consistent every time it worked. I never had an issue with that system.
Yeah, it really depends on, but even in a manufacturer, it's like, it could be the year, could be the, like the older Toyotas, even just the 18 through 2020 Toyotas were using that Intune, they were kind of transitioning from that to their newer stuff. And I bet the newer stuff is more like what you say, where there's probably some lag because of CarPlay or whatever it is.
Yeah, for sure. Agreed.
Oh, Craig says his Z06 is being recalled because they burned to the ground. I saw that recall and I did think the media blew it out. I was going to do a video on it and be like, if I'm understanding it correctly, maybe you guys can chime in. It seemed a little like, really, some gas could spill out of the.
It's like it's the overflow on the filler. Supposedly, I think the overflow on the filler runs down the inside. And if you overflow the gas, like if you're pumping too much in there, it can literally get on the side of the frame. And then my understanding is it can ignite, at some point. So,
but is that a common thing? Like, is it because I just can't imagine the way pumps are designed with the fumes and the systems to shut off pretty early. Like, they usually shut off long before they're full. I just can't imagine this being a problem unless they're like at the track with the cans and they're really,
I don't know. I can tell you just from my experience in automotive, when they were developing the vehicle envelope where the engine was and packaging in that back area, the Z06 was getting a lot hotter back there than their traditional Corvette. So I have no clue if this has something to do with higher temperatures back there. But if there is an issue where I feel like General Motors has struggled the past 10, 15 years, is managing their thermals around the underhood area. Because you guys remember, this had to be 10 years ago or so, where they were burning down a lot of vehicles where the heat shields up underneath the firewall were getting really hot. That was a problem a few years back. So all these new cars, you got to think, man, you got an engine with an exhaust system that's got exhaust temperatures of probably 1200 degrees Fahrenheit to 1500 Fahrenheit. And you got to keep that temperature down to not melting like all those underhood components, I mean, it's a big mess to manage.
Well, and I think the biggest thing is GM probably, you know, their engineers are used to doing front engine cars. And you think about a mid-engine vehicle, your engine is right next to the fuel tank. It's right next to the filter. You know, it's not, I think so maybe that may be something that they're not used to. We're like Ferrari and Lamborghini, you know, they've been doing mid-engine for a long time, so they understand that. So maybe that's something that the engineers are just working on, but I bet that's why they recalled them.
Man, that's a great point, Rocky. That's very true. So I feel like this is a great point to talk about. Recalls. Why are they getting worse? Curious. What do you guys think?
Man, it's a lot of things. It's tons of cost cutting, planned obsolescence in combination with tons of software updates where they're trying to, every manufacturer is in this race, almost like the AI race, where they're like, we have to have a huge screen. We have to have CarPlay and Android Auto. It has to be wireless. We have to have, you know, these radar and sensor systems that can detect things, almost like what Tesla drove into the market. Everybody's trying to copy that. And I think everybody just in that race, you combine all that software with also cost cutting on just simple things like transmission valve bodies or whatever it is, or manufacturing processes, change in manufacturing processes in 2020. All these things just hit at the same time. And it's just, this is, I think, just a tailwinds from it.
I guess for me, it's, you know, I do a lot of programming in the modules, and, you know, we have a TCM module, you got an ECM module, you got a seat module now, you've got a Bluetooth module, you've got, I mean, there is probably 20 to 30 modules that have their own programming, you know, in these vehicles now. And when you start that vehicle, all 20 or 30 of those modules are being conjoined together at the same time, you know, with the programming. And I think that it's exactly what he said. It's just all the features and all the modules that have been added. I mean, you go back to an old vehicle where we used to have a PCM that actually controlled the transmission too. Then they broke it from PCM to TCM. Then you went from PCM, TCM, you know, to body control module. And then they just kept adding. And now we're like 20 modules on these high-end trucks. So I think it's just the communication and getting all 20 of those modules to link up. And I think all the manufacturers are battling that.
Yeah, you know, I was thinking about when you look at a TCM, ECM, PCM, and you see all these connection points, and I know you guys have crawled underneath and you see, you know, you see these connectors that butt joint with some sort of maybe clasp that hold them in place. Some of those things have 15, 25 different pins. And you think about moisture, you think about contamination, anything in that. Every single time you add another pin, another connection, another circuit is another risk of an issue. And there's so many more modules, like you said. It's crazy. I mean, I don't know how you make it better, to be fair. And it's funny because when we look at all these NHTSA recalls and you break it down, I'm not breaking it down now by manufacturer. I'm just looking at by component. Number one thing of recalls right now, 24% electrical, and then followed by no value. This could be electrical also. Then you got equipment. Then you back over prevention. This is all still electrical. I mean, you basically have got 60% of this chart of issues is tied to electrical. And that doesn't even include like visibility. Is this visibility through cameras? You know, that electrical, you know, airbags, electrical, you know, I saw the other one, exterior lighting. That's all electrical. I mean, you look at this, I bet you 2/3 of this whole thing is electrical related.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's still, I don't know. They need to, they're going to struggle moving forward, I think. And then you look at the EV plays they're making. I mean, GM and Ford they're like doubling down on EVs. And it's like, really? You're going to, like, maybe you should fix your trucks first, because that's like where you're making your money is your trucks.
I know. I've said this from the beginning. I don't know. I struggle to understand why everybody is trying to dive into markets that make no money right now. It just doesn't make sense. Only thing I could think is I don't know, are we going to end up subsidizing this through taxpayer dollars, where we're developing our supply chains in North America that's going to have some EV capability so that 15 years from now, there might be more electrification vehicles? Because otherwise, this just feels like a total loser. And it's nothing against EVs. I think, you know, for people that want an EV, that's cool. It's just, if I'm running a business, I don't want to spend money on products that are losing me money.
Yeah, they've been doing that for years now, subsidizing the battery plants
You're right.
across the country. The trying to get Ford and GM caught up to Tesla's Gigafactory style, like that's been what the subsidized side of this has been. Is it's not just subsidizing the consumer to buy them. It was subsidizing, not all of it, but a lot of it was funneled to them for that. And it's tough because it's like, well, will they still sell without this $7,500 tax credit? Is there really room in the EVs? They probably will get to be more profitable or to a point where they can sell cheap EVs. We're kind of going to this, what feels like a throwaway car type thing where, oh, it will last 10 years and then we just recycle it. Well,
Right.
that's perfect for EVs. People would love that for them. They'll just lease them and just always lease something new. And they're already doing that. Tons of people just lease EVs for 2 or 3 years and they just keep cycling them.
Yeah.
That's one thing that, I'll say, like, we have the Hummer EV, right? And it's a great car. It's not so great for going out of town, but as far as charging it here at the house and driving every day, it's great. It costs hardly anything to run that car. But I'm also really glad that we leased it and we didn't purchase it. But the part that's kind of scary is in 2 more years, all these leased EVs are going to get turned in. And then what's that going to do to the market or MMR on these? The market flooded with the turn-ins.
100%. I totally agree with you. In 2-3 years, I think we're going to see. I mean, look at how much the price on these Hummers have dropped in the last 3 years.
Oh yeah. I mean, $30,000 cars are down to 75, 80, I mean, they're doing 0% for 60 months to try to, they're just trying to get them moved, and that's not, and that's even with the incentive still intact through the end of this month.
Yep. Agreed. I see a question from Craig. The Stingray and E-Ray do not have this cooler and the electric fan on that side. So this might coincide with where I heard that the Z06 engine envelope was a lot hotter and thermal management issues. This might all coincide with that issue. And then I see Brock's got a question. I heard that HR Bill 4117 is going to be attached to the new budget bill. If that is true and it passes, what does that mean for emissions and DEF? Great question. I can tell you guys this, just from my inside sources of the automotive exhaust after treatment community, there is no changes that have formally made it to the big 3 where a 2027 Super Duty is going to have less emissions components or regulation yet. It can happen still, but as it stands right now, they're still moving forward like they were 2 years ago. So I'll be curious to see what happens. We already know the CAFE thing is done. So that will be hugely helpful for Stellantis. That's a monster. We're talking $200+ million a year in less fees that they have to pay to the government for tax subsidies or for those cash subsidies. So,
and that's one thing Stellantis is doing is they're dropping those MSRPs because of the emissions, and it's crazy. Y'all, the Durango, like we just talked about before, Barry. I mean, the Durangos were you can get a base Hellcat for 83. I mean, it's hard to believe they're making a car for that.
I know.
Price with the Hellcat engine. I mean, so they're actually passing that buck back onto the customer from the emissions. But the other thing about the emissions that I've heard is that supposedly they're supposed to be sending out updates pretty soon that are going to stop putting your truck in limp mode if you're low on DEF.
I saw that. Yeah,
they're going to roll that out to existing, that's GM, Ford, Ram,
everybody.
Supposed to be that software coming to where they can't cripple your vehicle if it has an emissions problem or a DEF problem. So that'll be interesting to see how that works and how the system lasts after you pull the DEF off, or somebody runs it without the DEF,
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, I'm sure, Rocky, you as well as me, I know I've been on a trip. You're pulling a 15,000-pound trailer behind you, and you thought you had enough DEF in the truck for the trip. Next thing you know, you're chugging DEF because you got a headwind. You're going north. Next thing you know, you get the light on, and you got 485 miles, and you're like, dang, I got 400 miles ahead of me in rural country towing. Where the heck am I going to get DEF? And then all of a sudden, the anxiety kicks in, and you're like, oh, crap. I've had that situation happen a bunch of times, especially on the GM 3-liter diesel. That thing towing chugs the DEF. I've never had a diesel that uses DEF like that little thing.
I would say the high output Ford for me. You know, a lot of people ask me what's the difference between the standard output and the high output. And I tell them really up to 15,000 pounds behind you really don't notice the difference, but the DEF consumption on the high output
More.
is very significant. I would say
Yeah.
probably 30% more DEF burn for pulling the same load than a standard output, you know.
Now, I'm curious, Rocky, did you ever have a standard output and a high output from the same calendar year or model year? You did.
Yes.
Okay.
I had a 23. Well, so I had a late 23 Platinum that was a standard output, and then I moved to the 24 Limited. But those trucks were 6 to 8 months apart, if that. And like I said, daily driving, you couldn't really tell the difference in the high output. But when you literally put 15,000 pounds behind it, you knew that high output, it would hold 9th and 10th gear, where that standard output would probably be in 7th and 8th.
Oh, that's good to know. You definitely push that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So if you think DEF consumption's bad on that high output, and I had one too, and the 3.0's double as bad, if not 3 times worse. We did, I normally could do about 15,000 pounds GVW loaded up. And I could get about 1,600 miles towing for a tank of DEF. If I did 5,000 pounds on a 3-liter diesel for about 1,000 miles, so keep in mind 1,000 miles versus 1,600 miles, I go through 8 gallons of DEF in 1,000 miles. Terrible.
So going back to Brock's question, the HR 4117, I mean, I think what he's asking is will DEF be? I think what will happen is the SCR system won't be mandated anymore, right? So if it passes, in theory, they could remove the requirement for DEF in all the systems. But my question would be, do you really think GM and Ford and like the big players, would they do that? Or would they just say, no, it actually costs us a lot more to like go back and R&D everything. Like they're just going to leave them in because they're going to think Trump's out in 3 years, you know?
Right.
I think though that system is, I mean, we talked about the cost of that system on one of our last videos. I mean, you're probably looking at, you know, EGR and all the stuff involved in the emission stuff on the diesel is probably a $16,000-$17,000 total added to the truck. And so, you know, if they were to remove it in the future, you could probably see some definitely cheaper pricing.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because we've seen the EPA director make the comments of what they'd like to do. We see the short term. They've already said by 2027 model year, the software will be modified on 27 model year trucks, SUVs, agriculture, on-road, off-road, everything that requires DEF. These sensors will be desensitized, we could call it. It gives you more time before you go into that limp mode. And when you do go limp mode, you're not 5 miles per hour on the side of the highway. I think you can do 50 or 45, 55 miles per hour. I hope they do more than that personally, because I think some of this stuff is just silly. But I guess we'll see. Do they get it where you could remove an SCR system? I don't know. Time will tell. All I know is I hope they don't go back to the 2008 to 2010 timeframe of emission system, because that was the worst system. I'd rather go before 2008 or after 2010, because that 2008 to 2010 Power Stroke I had got crap fuel economy, wasn't reliable. That was the worst emission system. Yeah, so it's like go forward or go backward. I mean, an LBZ,
I think, right? Yeah.
Yeah, part of a terrible engine also. But
can I grab Craig's question when you get a sec?
Yeah, sure.
So Craig asked the question, how many of the RHOs will be on the market when the TRX goes into production? Will there be good buys on the RHO? I kind of said this in the beginning when we bought the RHO. That truck is I think is still kind of an underpriced truck for everything you get in the emissions.
100%.
I mean, not the emission, but the efficiency, 35s, the horsepower. I think that RHO's got a lot bigger market than the TRX. I think the TRX is going to be over 100K. And I think what everybody gets out of the RHOs, and y'all, I've seen the trade-ins on the RHOs, and I mean, the trade-ins are bringing really good money, and MMR's holding on them. So
that's right.
You know, I think that they're getting more and more popular because people are finding out more about them, and they're going to drive them, and they're figuring out what kind of truck they are. I think the TRX will still be kind of a limited market. I think it's going to be, I mean, it's just going to be, I mean, you're probably going to be 30, 35,000 more than an RHO. So I think a lot of people are going to want those RHOs. And at the local dealer we have here, they get one in or they get a used one, it's gone in 2 or 3 days. Like it doesn't sit.
I couldn't agree more.
used RHOs across the country. If you search cars.com, there's only 69 available. The cheapest one is $69,000 with 60.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this just proves the point. This proves the point that if you look at resale, that's phenomenal. That's phenomenal. 69 grand, cheapest one across the country. And if that happened to be a level 0, you could go buy it for new for Mark Dodge for 65 grand. Sounds like a good move.
Yeah, let's see the new ones. There's 329 new ones available, and the 20, I don't know, looks like around 67,000 is the least expensive there. But
let me see if I can find that, because I got Ram stuff up here I was going to show. Let me see if I can go by trim. Yeah, here we go. Yeah. Yep, here you go. So,
yeah,
well, in 316, considering the fact, I believe I heard, the last I heard was there 6,700 produced approximately for 25 model year. And this is a mix of 25s through 26. So if we just bump this to 25s, okay, so that's not many out there if you really think about it. Now for perspective, what do you guys think the guess is on an F-150 Raptor?
We talking V6? Or we talking V8? We are, or we standard?
Wow, guys, you looking at this number? 2,900. So for people asking, how's the resale of the RHO? You tell me, what do you see when I see this number? It's already hitting big time on the F-150 Raptor. And look at the price here, $94,000, $90,000. Here's the cheapest one, 75 grand. That's already down 6 grand for MSRP. When I see this, all I see is, dude, RHO is a bargain.
My wholesaler told me on the Raptor, the V6, he was like, if you're ready to take a hit, buy one or buy it right, you know, and you can see why the market, and this is what we talk about, you know, when the market gets flooded with the vehicle, you know, with certain vehicles. And I just had a conversation with Barry the other day, because I was thinking about picking up a Raptor R for the channel, why I'm waiting on the TRX to come out, because I've got almost 18,000 miles on mine now, you know, and it's still worth good money. So it's going to make a move. But my frustration is with the Raptor is there's a lot of R's available. I mean, just around me, there's probably 50 or 60, you know, and you look at dealers still trying, and this is one thing that kind of made me mad about Ford is the ADMs, you know, the markups, you know, I mean, these trucks at 140, 150, I mean, that's just really taking advantage of the consumer, in my opinion, you know. And today, looking at, you know, Raptors, I looked all over the state of Texas, and I was just trying to see if I could find one, you know, with 5,000 to 10,000 miles. Guys, they're still over MSRP
for sure
for 10,000 mile trucks.
Yep.
And that, you know, but there's starting to be so many of them on the used market that I'm actually scared to go purchase one, because
100%
the market's going to start flooding with these vehicles, you know, and they're going to keep building them, and they're not selling them. And they've got these high markups. I think this ADM and these, you know, above MSRP, I hardly would pay MSRP for a truck to begin with.
Agreed.
But you throw a $20,000 ADM on it, and then the market's starting to get flooded with it. I mean, I think those things are going to be 90, 95,000 in 4 to 6 months. Maybe I'm wrong, but in prediction, and I can't stomach buying a used truck
and losing 30 grand
and losing 30 or 40 grand.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, that's just wild to me.
For people watching this right now, Car Guru sometimes struggles with showing prices over MSRP. So what you'll see is no price listed. This is just proving the point that half these things, they say MSRP, but the dealer's price is, like you said, 20, 30 grand over. And look at this. Now, guys, this is something to think about. The Raptor R production rate on a good year is 5,000 trucks a year. In 24, they made 2,500. When I look at this right here, I see 5 to 10% of their full market year is available right now. Whereas now you take the same scenario and you look at the RHO, and they made 7,000 of them, and there's only 156 available on Car Guru.
That's correct.
This is the data to prove when someone says, oh man, the RHO is going to get hurt in resale. No, the Ford Raptor is going to get hurt in resale. And especially as soon as TRX comes out, this is going to make this situation with Raptor R even worse.
What do you think? What do you guys think about David Brown's question? 2026 Ford F250 versus Ram 250 or Chevy. Tows occasionally, 10,000 pound trailer and 14,000 dump trailer.
So,
Um,
are you wanting gas or are you wanting diesel? That'd be my first question. Secondly, I mean, none of them, to be fair, get me super excited because they're all very expensive for 26 model year.
Ram
I
has a
don't
better warranty, right?
diesel, man. So I got a video that I just posted over the weekend. I already drove and did a drive review on the new Cummins. Is the 8-speed going to be better than the 6-speed? Yep. What do I think about the new Cummins? It's cool. It's great. As long as you never go drive a new Duramax or a new Power Stroke, you'll love a Cummins.
I agree.
Because the Cummins engine brake is awesome, best in class by a long shot. But power-wise, even with the 8-speed transmission, that Super Duty, even the standard output or the L5P Duramax will walk all over the Cummins power-wise. It feels so substantially stronger. That's my opinion.
If I'm putting mechanical stuff aside,
Yes.
my Duramax, dude, that GMC Denali is my favorite truck. I mean, the seats are a little stiff in it, but beyond that, I mean, just as far as all the features, the massage seats, I mean, all the stuff you get, the Power Stroke is a powerhouse, but the exterior looks for me always comes down to the Denali. But the valve body and the fuel control module and things that will leave you walking are things that leave me concerned. If I'm getting in my brand new truck and I'm thinking about fuel control module or valve body, that's just something I can't get over.
I agree. I feel like we've all been burned by diesels. That's the problem. We've all had a problem with a diesel where now we're like having heartburn. And I think they're awesome. Diesels are awesome until they're not. And now if I was going to go put 400,000 miles on one, I'd probably go with the Cummins. Because the Cummins engine's going to be solid, and that 8-speed's probably going to be solid also. I'm never going to keep one that long. So for me, I feel like I'm going gas for me personally, just because I feel like I'll have less problems.
Yeah, we talked about that in a live before. Sorry. Go ahead.
So on David's question, there's one thing that I was going to relay. This is not my opinion; it's Nate's opinion. But we're going to have a video on.
I was just waiting. I knew you were just salivating for this question.
Well, no. This is so back to David's 250, Ford Ram Chevy. So Nate and I are going to do a video on the ZF Powerline, which is in the 2500s, and it's weird because he says on one hand he would rather have a ZF. Like if he was not going to just upgrade the valve body and work on it, if he was just buying a brand new truck, he thinks the ZF would be a better, more reliable transmission, like for a certain period, for 100, 130,000, whatever it's going to be. But he said beyond that, he said it is going to be unrepairable. Mark my words. That's what he told me on the phone, and he said it multiple times. And the way, I guess it's the way they designed the torque converter and a lot of the electronics. He said they lock everything down where you can't purchase these things like General Motors and Ford. He can get parts in the aftermarket cheap, like torque converters and plates, and they can order them and rebuild a transmission. He says so far the Powerline 8, he said it's going to be, a $16,000 transmission down the road when it goes out. So that's something to consider.
It'd be interesting because maybe it's because the Powerline is all brand new and it's only been out for 3 to 4 months, where that 10-speed Ford and GM has been out for 5+ years. Because I know if you look at like a ZF 8HP 75, 60, 45, 75, 90, 95, there's a ton of aftermarket support for those things out there, especially in the racing community, like through Pure Transmission. So it'll be interesting. And in full fairness, if the trans is that much better, you might not need as much support like you do on the 10 speeds from GM and Ford.
Okay, now I want to say this. I usually don't give a shout out to other channels, but I watch Flying Wrenches. He's got a pretty good Ford channel. He does transmissions. I don't know if y'all have seen that guy. He's a
awesome.
really good mechanic, right?
Yep.
And I think he said his turn was like 5,500 is what he's been doing those transmissions for, and that's not a bad price,
No.
But he just released a video the other day, and it said that now that these transmissions have been out and they're going out of, they're coming out of warranty, the new 10 speeds, he said basically they've doubled their price on parts overnight.
Are you saying like OEM parts or aftermarket?
OEM parts. Wow. OEM parts have doubled overnight on the prices, and that's what he said he was going to have to go up on them. But
interesting.
So another thing where Ford now is saying, okay, now these transmissions are on the customer, so now we're just going to double the price of, what I mean? Like it's an interesting deal. But he said the valve body's almost doubled overnight.
It's just unbelievable, man. I mean, you know what? It'll make a great opportunity for Nate and Next Gen, because if these companies are going to get greedy on like rebuilding these transmissions, man, there's going to be companies like Nate, Next Gen, and all these other companies. They're going to have a great opportunity to capitalize on this.
Yeah, I think they already have.
Yeah, for sure.
But this David asked if the second gen valve body, I think it's actually they coded it to third gen valve body, or next gen is what GM Authority. That was a little odd, but
it was odd.
That was definitely planned, I think. But
and
yeah,
for the ones, go ahead.
I think they do have a new valve body coming. Nate said he just got a bunch of photos from it, so hopefully he'll have some information and provide what he thinks are the differences in the old valve body versus the Gen 3. So said he has a bunch of pictures. That's all the information I've got from him.
I think this is what I've heard, and don't hold me to this, but basically I think you were an O-ring plunger valve body before, and then they went to like a solid brass plunger. And the problem is when you get some contamination in it, the solid brass actually wears the housing out on the valve body.
Wow.
So that's why you can't get them, because they can't just reman them. They can't just put new plungers with O-rings because they went back that way. But I understand like the aftermarket kits are going back to the O-ring style plungers with the valve body, which is totally rebuildable. You know what I'm saying? And so that I could be wrong, but that's my understanding on the valve bodies.
That's interesting. Well, maybe that's interesting. You know, what's funny is I've driven a lot of Ford and GM 10 speeds on the half tons, the heavy duties, gases, and diesel. If you watch my channel, you know, arguably I'm a Ford guy, but man, the GM 10 speeds, they shift a lot smoother to me from my experience, especially in the heavy duty. The 10 speed behind the Duramax feels really smooth versus the 10 speed behind the Super Duty. The Ford feels a little clunkier. And I've wondered if that is part of why maybe the Ford is arguably a little more reliable. I wonder if that clunkiness makes it less clutch wear, maybe less particulate breaking down, clutch wear, friction getting into the valve bodies and tearing them up. Because like when you put a high output diesel in the tow mode with a load behind you, downshifts, upshifts, I mean, I'm not going to call it violent, but you can feel the shifts.
Are they firm or bad?
No, I would say firm is probably a good word for it. Whereas like when you get into a Duramax L5P, towing or not towing, man, they're just smooth. Like it's buttery from gear to gear. I don't know if like they're opening up the torque converter and relaxing pressures on clutch packs. I don't know their transmission calibration. The irony of the whole situation is, if you look at transmission temperatures, the Ford's probably going to run 30 to 50 degrees hotter than a GM.
220 to 225 towing, where the GM's going to sit there at 185 all day long. Same load, same heat, you know, all those things. I will back you up on the GM 100%. I hope they figure out their issues, but man, I love the GM for the towing. It was probably the most that drives like a car, tows like, I mean, just straight as a rail, and the steering, being able to make a U-turn in that truck. I mean, just all the things that they offer. It's really an amazing experience. And that's one of the things, even though the seats are a little stiffer, I'm giving them the credit on that. And they look, like I said, exterior looks, all those things. I'm a Ford guy too. I always have been. I give the Ford the longevity. I agree with the power statement. The Power Stroke is a beast, and the reliability is a beast. I had 4 Super Duties in a row, and one thing I didn't like was the 3/4 shift flare. And that's where you probably noticed that too. Every one of them, you know, on that 3 to 4, it would clunk. You know, if it didn't know what gear to be in at that certain speed all the time, and that's not towing. That's empty. It had the 3/4 shift flare.
Yep. It's just wild that these different transmission strategies where Fords run so hot. They're 40 to 50 degrees hotter than everybody else out there. And, you know, the Rams run a lot cooler. The GMs run cooler. I see a question here by Frank. Where is the Ram Express at? I haven't seen one yet. Frank, I haven't seen one yet either. I'm working on it. I'm trying to see one. I've driven a handful of 26 Ram 1500s. I don't know how true this is. maybe someone, if some of the guys at Mark Dodge are watching or others right now, my understanding is Ram has been prioritizing higher trim levels to get these 26s out the door. It probably got a little better margin on it. But some Warlocks I know are getting down to customers, and I've heard Hemis are coming as well. See this, we have a Ford and GM both on the farm. A work truck, you won't beat a Ford because of solid front axle. IFS does not last when being abused. I believe it. I mean, we're in Michigan, and when I see a truck with a 1,000-pound plow on the front of the truck, 9 out of 10 of them are a Ford or a Ram with solid front axles. You rarely see a GM truck with a plow up front. And when you do, they're on new trucks. You don't see them on like a lot of older trucks.
We've got some, but they're not abused on farms, and we've rebuilt the front suspension on. It's like you deal with the rebuilds, but you get the comfort. I guess that's the downside.
Yeah. There's always trade-offs, you know. Yeah. So, I've said this before. The GM truck is from my experience, the best towing truck I've ever towed with. They're 1500s, they're 2500s, and they're 3500s. I don't know what their strategy is and how it is, but I've seen it with enclosed trailers, open trailers, gooseneck, fifth wheel, bumper tow. I don't know what GM trucks just tow the best, in my opinion.
Just like giving you guys confidence, like you just feel like it's effortless.
Yeah, like, it's not any white knuckle. You know, that's like literally just one hand on the wheel, towing 70 miles an hour with a 40-foot toy hauler behind you. Like it just didn't, where the others. You got your hands on the wheel, and Ford's always kind of, if you go drive a Ford, it has a little bit of slack in the steering. You'll notice it. The GM's going to be like driving a car. The Ram, the front axle has a little bit of slack in the steering. It's not horrible. The one thing that Ford used to do, and this was why I always say this, my 2017, it was a 22 Platinum. My 22 Ford Platinum was my favorite truck till this day for towing, for everything. That's when Ford pulled the adaptive steering off. And it changed the way that the trucks drove and they towed. When I got that new body style starting in 23, they were just all different. They weren't like my 22 Platinum. And it was because the 22s had adaptive steering, which made a big difference in the way they drove.
That's why this is why when I always talk about if I'm going to get a new Super Duty, one of the reasons I always default to the Tremor is you get that electric over assist steering, and it has such a big impact on the drivability. It's different from what you had because that was a little different steering system. That was awesome how it would tighten up on the highway and loosen up at slow speeds. That was a really, really cool system. Unfortunately, I don't have that anymore. I wish Ford still offered that. But that electric power over assist steering, or EPAS, or however they call it, it works pretty good too.
Yeah.
So I got up on the screen right here. I know we just talked about this. I thought this was interesting. Do you guys see a trend here? Everybody's been giving Ram a hard time. Oh my gosh, the Hemi's gone. No one's buying their trucks, this, that, and the other. When we start breaking this down, I want to show you guys something here. When we start breaking this down, let's compare 25s to 25s right now. There's 23,000 Ram 1500s out there, according to Car Guru. Okay.
Chevrolet 25?
2025. Yep. Now, arguably, I should probably increase this to 26, right? Because there's 26s out there now.
Just say new.
Yep. I got new 40,000. Okay. Ram 1500s. There's 54,000 Silverados. And I want to make sure, what years do we got? Yeah, this 26s as well. And there's, let's clear this, V8, Raptor. And Ford's got 77,000. So you can kind of see a little bit of a trend here. Ford's got the most inventory. And who's got the least? Yoda. By far the least. And they should have the least because they control their inventory big time with their dealers.
You saw the way you saw that video, right, with Haggerty?
Actually, I don't think I did.
Oh man, you guys need to watch how they build the Tundras, like from the frames up. They did a factory tour.
Nice,
but that explains why. I mean, they're almost on demand. It's like they can dial up and down production so easy.
Yeah. Well, when I know from my world, like when people think like, oh man, 70,000 Ford, it's a lot more than a Ram, the Chevrolet, to Toyota. But man, when you're making 1 million of these things a year, 70,000 in inventory like out there is really not that much. If they had 200,000, I'd say that's 20% of your year's production.
Yeah.
Now you're looking at 3 months easily out there. These numbers still don't scare me yet. I don't see a lot of them out there. And I share this with people because right now is now the time to buy a vehicle. We don't know what's going to happen with the economy, tariffs, any of this stuff. But when I look at inventory on some of these brands right now, I don't see it getting better in some cases. I mean, at proof in case, Ford's got like no discounts right now on their new Super Duty. Ram's not offering much discounts on the Ram HDs. GM, you want to go buy a new $100,000, $105,000 Yukon Denali, $0 in discount. There's nothing. And there's hardly any of them out there. So my opinion, might not be a terrible time. I just don't think it's going to get a lot better in the future, sadly. I don't know. What's your guys' thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's the same as you. I think that right now there's more stock on all brands than we've had. I mean, you can get a standard output Hurricane for a deal. You can get Tundras, some of them for decent deals if they're a 2025. They're all running financing. It's like 1.9 for 72 or 0%. So if you're getting 10 or 15% off MSRP and you're weaseling them into giving you the, whatever it is, Toyota Financial, GM, whatever, and you're getting the good rate, it's probably as good as it's going to get. The only way I think it gets better is some sort of a typical market correction in the stock market. If we see like a 20 to 40% 2008 event, then yeah, maybe we'll see cheaper prices, but it's going to be like, okay, you'll see another 10%. They're not going to give them away and lose money. They're just going to hold them.
I know. And this is the big reason why we do this podcast and talk with everyone, is we're just trying to explain to people that, like, I think if people think they're going to get the 30, 35% off MSRP, it's going to be a short window. If it happens, I still haven't seen it happen. I mean, it might be out there, but actually, you know what, Rocky, where we'd see it is on the Hummer. I mean, and some of that was on the past. I mean, we saw that was probably close to 35% off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I want to I'll drop this on the use, but it kind of is now time to buy a vehicle too. If you're picky and you're looking for 25 and you want a high trim, or you want something specific, you're probably getting on that time where you're going to need to probably do something, because interest rates are going to drop to the end of the year. We've already heard that. That's going to drive some sales up. And they're also going to start incentivizing more and more as closer we get to December, because they're going to want to, by November, December is when they're going to want to move these vehicles. So it's going to start this weekend with it's a holiday weekend.
Good point.
You'll start seeing some sales coming this weekend. But, if y'all aren't extremely picky and you want to hold off and wait till that, November, December, and there's 25s on the lot, they're going to be very aggressive to move them. And I think, if you look at Ram and you look at the Hurricanes, I think you'll be able to pick those up. I think the F-150s with the 2.7s? It seems like the, with the smaller engines, whatever that smaller EcoBoost is, if you're looking for that type of truck, I think as it gets towards the end of the year, they're going to get really aggressive on those, with the smaller engines. They're going to be trying to get those moved off the lot.
Yeah. GM's 2.7's the same way. They'll move them.
Yeah. It's wild to me. There's just these guys don't have many trucks right now. I mean, that's wild to think. Biggest dealership in the country, and they got one RHO. One.
That's because of you guys. You, TRD, John. I'm telling you, man. Jason, you guys. I'm serious. You guys drive. I bet you drove a ton of sales for them. They were selling before, but I mean, even the RHO, like I think the latest hype around the RHO, you have Tim, you guys, and John all just buying it and saying this truck's great. Like, nobody really complains about it. They're like, this truck does everything. It does the going to the mall, the street stuff, but it does the desert stuff, and it does this, and it can tow, and it's like jack of all trades.
I think the big thing is, like, once you start looking at when you put your dollars into whatever you drive, it's a great truck. And for the money, I would happily, in a heartbeat, this truck we got out here right here, this 26 Ram 1500 Bighorn, I'd drive one of these in a heartbeat. I think this is a great truck. Is it discounted heavily? It is. But when I start thinking I could get a 26 Ram 1500 Bighorn with a standard output cloth interior for 46 grand, or for like 16 grand more, I could get an RHO with the high output. I think the value is the RHO. But I would drive this Bighorn in a heartbeat. If I could get it for 38 grand, I wouldn't have an RHO. I'd rather be in this, to be fair, because I think it's a better value and it's probably a safer investment, especially if we have an economic slowdown. I'd rather be sitting in this truck.
Yeah, and I think, you know, I mean, you've had the Raptor Arbery, we've had tons of these trucks, right? I've had the TRX in the past. I've had all the HDs, and it's just, and I said it before, this Hurricane is like having a small diesel. It's just that torque that's there, and it makes it feel like a diesel. Like, I hate gas trucks. I had a bunch of 1500s with the 5.7 Hemi. They're okay, but they were not something that I was like, oh, I'm going to drive this, right? I don't put 18,000 miles on the truck. And I'm going to give it to the Ram engineers on that RHO. You look at all of us YouTubers, just like you said, we're all driving them. And it's because when you go drive it, it's just like,
it's fun.
I'm good with this. Like, I can drive this every day, like, and still get 15, 16 miles to the gallon. You know, it runs like a race car. It's quiet. It's no interior noise, and it rides good. You know, and it's got 35s on it. So you don't have to do anything. A lot of people that want to lift, put wheels, tires, I mean, that truck comes looking good, the stock, you know? And so I just, like I said, I kind of give it to them on the RHO, but yeah, it's I've almost considered, before I get too many miles on this one, if they don't announce the TRX pretty soon, I'm going to buy another RHO.
Yeah, for sure. I think that, I hope the other manufacturers like Ford and General Motors, Toyota, everybody looks at the benchmark of smoothness and performance of the Hurricane. And that's the new benchmark for every manufacturer moving forward, because the smoothness, like you said, the day-to-day is awesome. I'd love to see this across other engines. Like, I get in my 3-liter, the Bronco Raptor. That's an awesome motor too. The 3-liter is one of the funnest EcoBoost engines Ford makes performance-wise. Man, it feels antiquated compared to this 3-liter of the Hurricane. It feels that much better of smoothness. There's no rough idles.
Dude, the straight six is like, it's always been just
solid.
What it's in, it's awesome.
All right, Rocky, these guys are wanting some good stock tips. You got to give them the free ones, though.
First of all,
he's going to cost you.
He's got a Clippy avatar. Like, that's awesome. Ken knows what's up. He's been watching Lewis Rossman.
Yep. Can't give any tips, man. Can't give any tips.
Get you in trouble.
Yep.
Yeah. Our tips we're giving you guys is where we think the car market is. That's a good stock tip.
Yeah. You know, I think look at vehicles that are a year old, you know, before you go buy something. You know, go to Auto Trader, look what they're selling for, you know, and let that help make your decision on what you're going to purchase, because, you know, put 10,000, 15,000, whatever you put a year, and go put a year-old model in there and see just what that value is, because that's what it's costing you all to own that vehicle. What's it worth a year from now, right? And then if you can get a deal up front, like Mark Dodge or Victoria Dodge or any of these dealerships that'll work with you, you know, I mean, you can get 8-10 grand off these trucks. I mean, then you're buying it right, and the MMR is holding. And I mean, I'm surprised, out of all the trucks I've had, I think the value in this RHO, like we just talked about, I mean, right now they're 70, 71 used at the auction. I mean, so I'm, you know, from what I paid for it, I'm going like, I just put 16, 17,000 miles on a truck that I'm pretty much breaking even on.
Yep. It's phenomenal. You can't really beat that. There's the Rocky stock tip right there.
Yeah.
See, you guys tricked them into actually giving you a stock tip. So what tools can you use? Well, I just showed you guys, Car Guru is one you could look at. I like to look at the dealer websites, get on the manufacturer's website, search the inventory, build, kind of look. I think the most powerful tool for getting a good deal is doing your homework. Look, give yourself like, I always tell people, if you want to get a good deal on something, give yourself like a handful of options. If you're dead set on one vehicle and one color, man, you really limit yourself. And you really, at that point, are just going to be going between dealers. But if you can give yourself multiple brands, that can help you. And then Rocky nailed it, where if the vehicle's been out a few years, see where it's at. Do people like it? Has it got a bunch of recalls? Is it safe? Yeah, because the thing I'm trying to play with right now, I'm taking a gamble. I'm thinking about certified pre-owned 21 to 24 GM full-size SUVs with a 6.2 liter. Got a terrible reputation right now, right? The 6.2. This thing's a ticking time bomb. Or is it? Most of these engines are failing pretty early into the ownership. And I keep thinking maybe there's a real opportunity to take and snag this maybe while the market's down. You can maybe get yourself a Yukon, Tahoe, Suburban, Escalade. I don't know, but it's an idea I've been toying with. And the one that
the thing is with that too is it the oil? You know,
Exactly.
is it the zero W? Because all these new engines are running the zero, right? You look at even the Cummins, right, with the
Yep.
flat roller versus flat tappets, and they had all these issues with the rollers. Well, which oil were they running when they were changing the oil? You know.
Yep. Exactly. One question Jamie just asked: what are used RHOs going for? So just a few minutes ago, Car Guy Online just looked, and he found what was the cheapest one you found in the U.S. for?
68 or 69,000.
68, 69 grand. Yep.
And that's probably
Yep.
a level zero, right? That's not hands-free driving and saw
Yeah.
seats and, you know.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah,
probably. I'll have to go back to it.
See, I still think Ram has the ability, if they want to, they can still ratchet up the value on this RHO. How I see this playing out. Let's say Ford comes to the table with something really incredible for value for 26 model year on the F-150 Raptor. Ram can still like play around with level zero. If they just added cooled seats to a level zero, dang, that's going to really get a lot of people. Cause like, that's a big deal to me. It's hot in the summer. I like a cooled leather seat. I'd rather have a cloth at that point than having a non-cooled leather seat. Or what about could you imagine if they offered a Bighorn version of an RHO with cloth interior? That'd be incredible. And I know they can do this. Ford used to do this. Ford for second generation Raptor, they had a cloth interior Raptor. I know because I had one. I thought it was cool. I'm like, this is pretty neat. And it was like $8 grand less than like the mid package truck. Let's see. Just sealed the deal. Pick up a Tungsten on Friday. Houston area actually beat Mark Dodge. Dang, keep us posted on that. That's impressive.
And I'll tell you, I drove the Tungsten, y'all. I mean, you talk about that 3-liter high output Hurricane in the RHO with 35s on it and the heavier truck. I drove that Tungsten with that thing and it ran like a rocket. So I seriously doubt you're going to be disappointed with the power in that Tungsten. It's crazy power in those Tungstens with the stock tires on them.
And what's cool is the Tungsten, I think it's 2-wheel drive, 4 auto and 4 high. So you don't have to be in. That's awesome. It's a pretty sweet truck. Yeah. Someone said the only thing I want in my level zero is the 360 camera. Yeah, I agree. That 360, there's another thing. If Ford ratchets things up, they can do stuff like this. They could do a level zero with the 360 camera. It wouldn't be that hard to do.
And honestly, if the Raptor R today had digital rearview mirror, and it had Blue Cruise, and it had massage seats,
that'd be a home run.
I think I would just be in an R right now. I mean, I wouldn't have any hesitations. But that digital rearview mirror, the massage seats, and the hands-free driving.
It's a big one.
Hands-free driving on that level one, y'all. That's a game changer. When you get on I-10 and you drive halfway across the country, just to be able to sit back in your seat, straight as an arrow. I mean, it is really nice.
And you know what's so funny? I used to be so against this technology. I'm like, dude, I would never be caught dead in a vehicle driving me down the road. And then you get in one and do it. And man, it's so easy to get comfortable with that. That is awesome. I like it personally. But it's funny. I was with JB the other day and we drove that TRX and the Raptor. And I forgot how good at the small bump compliance the Raptor is versus the TRX. Yeah. It just soaks the bumps up. It is noticeable, at least versus the TRX. I didn't have an RHO next to the Raptor R at the same time, but all right, let's get past the topic of these premium trucks. Let's think about the day-to-day person, someone that's wanting a $35,000 or $30,000 truck versus say up to a $55,000 truck. I'm gonna throw a curveball at you guys. What do you think about this announcement Ford did on this $30,000 modular truck, electric truck? What is your thoughts on that?
I don't think anyone wants to talk about an electric truck.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat.
I agree.
I don't think, now the Ram Charge, the hybrid, something like that. I think if that comes to market, that's going to be something people are really interested in. But I just don't think there's a lot of hype for an electric truck right now.
I should I should walk that back a little. If it's Maverick owners or buyers, then yes, they are super interested in that size of. They're interested in the little commuter, good gas mileage, tiny bed style truck.
Yep.
Lots of like city truck guys that aren't towing. That it's like
Or-
there's a
or
demographic.
contractors. I see a lot of salesman contractors for like construction companies where they need a truck bed where they can throw some equipment for a job site, but they don't need they just need a 40 mile per gallon truck. I see a ton of those on the road.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think the home run would have been figure out how to make the Maverick in the United States and make it 20 grand again. That would be a truck they'd sell 2 million of them. I think that would have been a home run. I don't understand this approach, but it is not my call.
I don't think they can. I think with the union costs, I don't think they can make them. I think they're going to rely on robots to make things cheaper.
Maybe that's it.
That's why the EVs are so interesting to Ford, because they're like, well, we can put this thing together like a gigafactory where you're building 3 parts of the car at the same time. You bolt it all together at the end, and then you don't have the necessity for the humans, so you can keep the cost down.
You might be right on that. And even union aside, an EV's got 30% less components than an ICE. So there's less labor 1-to-1 on that. I've even thought too, if there's going to be less or there's going to be more sub-assembly production. So if you guys are familiar, like you got a lot of suppliers, they do sub-assemblies where they'll take, instead of just a bare axle on the back of a truck, they'll take that bare axle and then throw brakes on this corner, rear lower control arms, and they'll make that a sub-assembly where then Ram can take that, set it on the line, and just bolt it all in as one assembly. Those plants are done at suppliers, and a lot of those suppliers are not union facilities. So it makes me think these electric vehicles, maybe they're going to do a lot of sub-assemblies at non-union supply base, which could save them some cost. Brock, here's a good question. It is a mythical creature, but I can tell you I've seen this mythical creature. I've seen a bunch of them. There are tons of them going down the road. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'd rather Ram be late than Ram be early and us be dealing with an electrical nightmare train wreck. I want them to take their time and hit a home run on this thing instead of it being a piece of crap. So I know people that have driven them. I think there's a high likelihood I'll get a chance to drive one here in the next few months. Everyone that I've known that's drove it has said it's pretty awesome. Performance is good. The experience is good. And when the engine kicks on, it's really smooth. But these have all been early prototype mule build vehicles. It's happening.
I want to give credit to this car I went and checked out the other day, y'all. I'm usually not a car guy, but there's a Toyota dealership right next to where I work. And so I walked over there the other day, and a guy that I watch his channel, anyway, he went and purchased one of those new Priuses, right? And
The
you hear
Prime.
about the Toyota Prius, and I looked up the Toyota Prius, man, that is a sporty looking car. Like, they have really stepped up their game. I mean, red stitching on the seats. It's a really nice interior. I mean, this thing's got built-in solar on it, like 56 miles
That's
per
sweet.
gallon, and they doubled the horsepower.
Wow.
It's a 200 and something horse now,
And
and
a
it's
little car.
so it's a hybrid. So you don't have to worry about charging, but you can charge it if you want. It's got the plug-in. So if you're at the house, you can get some of that cheap, make it 30, 40 miles on full electric. Anyway, but for the price point of that car, and I think this was a higher end one, and it was close to 36, 37. But I was very impressed with the Toyota Prius, which you would think that I would never say that, but I was just like, well, I just had to walk over and look at it because, like I said, a guy that on my channel, he bought one for work that I watch channel. And anyway, I was like, I got to go look at one of those.
My daughter just got the 25 Camry. I would actually, instead of the Prius, because of the price, for whatever reason, the Prius costs more than the Camry, and they're like tiny inside.
Smaller. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, so the Camry is basically the same thing. You get the same mileage as the Prius. She's driving around like she does nannying and stuff. And she'll come in, she's like, Dad, I'm averaging 62 miles per gallon over the life.
Dang, that's incredible.
Yeah, she's gone like 4,000 miles in it so far and getting like 62, 63 miles per gallon. So she'll fill up. And it's not a plug-in hybrid, which is kind of nice because, she could just not think about where she's going. And she'll just fill up and like drive 680 miles on a tank. And it's nuts.
So in 4,000 miles, you put like 10 gallons into this thing.
Yeah, I'm always like, how often have you gone to the
Yeah.
gas? Like it couldn't have
Yeah.
been more than like 3 or 4 fill-ups.
Amazing.
Yeah,
I
and-
mean, Toyota's nailed it in that area. I mean, they created the game.
I guess, you know, if the thing that's different for me is used to, you know, you drove one of those cars, you know, like what did they have? I can't even remember what they were called. The little ones that were standard, you know, you were going through all 5 gears and you were at 37 miles an hour, right? I mean, just a slow acceleration, slow takeoff. These cars getting that mileage with the electric assistance is unreal on the accelerations, on how fast their 0 to 60 times are and how they run and they drive daily. And so anyway, it's just interesting. And you even look at Tesla Model 3s, and I'm not trying to get into EVs, but you know, you can lease those for what, $290, $300 a month right now. You know, so there are a lot of cars out there that are very reasonably priced with a lot of technology. So, you know, not just, I know we usually do truck stuff, but just wanted to throw that out there. I was very impressed with the Prius thing.
Brock got us excited. He brought a part out of us that nobody realized. We're all secretly Prius lovers.
Yeah.
You know
I
what
don't
it is?
know if I'm going to drive one, but you know, I was impressed with it. So
You know what it is for me? I'm an efficiency freak. I love when things are efficient, even though I got an RHO, which is not efficient, but sort of is. You got this little tiny engine. I just think the Prius in this efficiency is super cool. What they did, or the Camry, I've always thought it's impressive. Speaking of impressive in a Ram Charger, I'll throw an idea at you. I heard, and I hope this happens. I heard a rumor of an E-Rev F-150 with the 5.0 Coyote. And I can't think of a better E-Rev setup than that. That is a home run truck. And here's my theory on this. The E-Rev is going to help in city driving, right? That's where you're going to get all your fuel efficiency. You don't need a little boosted engine. You don't need a 6-cylinder. Where do you need a 6-cylinder? Where do you need a big V8? Where's your best efficiency? Where do you guys think? Highway. Exactly. People don't realize it's not a boosted engine. You don't want a boosted engine on the highway. The efficiency is worse. If you could mix a V8 with a hybrid system combined, like an E-Rev, man, Ford would have a home run fuel economy scenario for city driving and highway. That would be awesome. We'll see if it happens.
Yeah, on the Ram Charger, I would just say, and we did tie it with the Prius a little bit because the technology is kind of the same. You know, it's a hybrid. You know, if they get that Ram Charger out where you're getting 800 to 900 miles for a tank and a half-ton truck that you don't have to charge, I mean, and if they can keep the price point, like Barry, we've talked about this before, if they can keep the price point between 70, 80, you know, I think that's going to be a very marketable vehicle for people to purchase and put a good warranty behind it.
I agree, especially if interest rates and stuff start coming down. And I think we're going to start seeing this because I don't know about you guys, but I'm starting to see some interest rate deals. As an example, I saw leftover 2024 Lincoln Navigators marked down like 15 grand off MSRP with 0% financing for 6 years. That's incredible. You start taking 6% interest at 6 years on a $100,000 vehicle, you're saving what, 25, 30 grand in interest over the life of that vehicle. That's pretty impressive.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Brock, might just stick to the 2500 Warlock. Not a bad move either. Simple. I actually got an opportunity to drive a 22 Ram 2500 with a friend. Sorry, riding a friend's 22 Ram 2500 with the 6.4. He loves this truck, guys. He's got 70,000 miles on it. He's had not one problem with this thing. The ZF transmission's been bulletproof. That 6.4 motor's been solid. I think that's a pretty good solid setup.
I agree with the 6.4 gas, and I agree with the 7.3 gas for the Ford. I think both of those engines are just, they're beast. I mean, they eat a little bit of fuel, but they do what you need them to do. You know, and if you compare that to the price of a diesel, I mean, I saw a long bed 25 Platinum Ford the other day with the 7.3 in it. And I think the sticker was like 84, and that truck could have been had for 78.5. You know, for the 7.3 gas.
Yep. Well, the other thing I think it's cool, think about down the road, not having to worry about a high pressure fuel pump going bad, not having to worry about DI, direct injection coking on your intake valves, cheap fuel injectors. I think the 6.4, 7.3, that's the one downside I've got with the GM L8T that bums me out is like that, that motor's solid, but once you go and put that direct injection on it, gosh, it just kind of, but to be fair, that's probably the best fuel economy HD gas engine. It seems to get the best, fuel economy there.
Mm-hmm.
Rocky, I got a question for you. That fan behind you up on the ceiling.
Oh, that
is
one
that
up there?
Is that a big ass fan?
That's the
Dude,
24, and it's
incredible.
I've had that thing for, I don't know, 7 years now, and it's just moving real slow, but it moves a lot of air. It keeps it cool in here.
I don't know where I was at. I was flying into some airport. I don't remember if it was somewhere in like Asia or something, but there is a big ass fan in the ceiling. And I remember looking up and I'm seeing this fan and it was massive. I'm talking 30, 40 foot diameter. And the speed of this thing was barely moving. And the engineering, it just hit me. I'm like, dude, that fan is barely moving, but I can feel air 40 foot below. And I was just impressed. Those things are awesome. They're not cheap, but man, they're awesome.
Yeah, they're worth the money.
Yeah. Very cool. Do they collect some dust up there too?
Right?
What's that?
Are they cheaper to operate over time?
Yeah, I mean, it's got a 3-phase converter in it, so you can hook it up to 110 or 220, and it just converts it, so it's variable speed. I've got like on the wall, I think it's at 16% right now. And guys, usually I've got both the air conditioners running in here. I keep it at 16%, and it's fine. But like, if I want to blow this shop out, you put this thing up to 99, 100%, it'll spin fast. It'll blow those palms over. It'll blow every piece of paperwork off the tables. Like it will literally, I can open the doors and turn it up and it'll blow all the dust out.
That's hilarious. Hearing some noise outside. Joe's like, what the heck is that noise I hear? Yeah, that's awesome. All your talk of fan. I'm like, man, I got a fan dropping outside or something. That's cool. Well, I hope this was helpful for some people. I know there's been a lot of talk, and I know, guys, you got to check out Rocky's channels, growing, doing good things, bringing a lot of awesome content. It's got some of the coolest toys you'll ever see. And Car Guy Online is the Dateline special guy now. That's why I like to tease you. You're just crushing it with Nate from Next Gen and all this stuff. It's so fun. It's going to be fun to see what you guys think about the ZF 8-speed. And I think there's a lot of, this is very educational for people. And I hope this makes the industry get better, because really that's the whole goal on this, is like these manufacturers step up and start making better product, because these aren't cheap. They're crazy expensive. And it's disappointing in a lot of ways, but hopefully this makes things better. And I'm glad that Nate's got solutions for some of these problems. That's the big thing about this, is that's extremely helpful.
Yeah, for now. I don't know how long the manufacturers will allow solutions to be made from aftermarket, but I mean, they're really moving in. That's the worry, is, with all this electrification of everything, and 300 or 400 semiconductor modules in each car, they're really going into a scenario where they could lock down the car and all you can ever get is the dealer to help you. So, well, hopefully it doesn't go that direction, but they could do it. They could do it pretty easy.
I hope not. You hear of things, I thought, going some of the opposite, like you heard about the John Deere situation, the repair to work. And I thought we were starting to hear some of that open up, because I know the farmers have been struggling with some of these tractors in the middle of harvest season, and their tractors are breaking down and they're kind of screwed, and it's putting them in a bad pinch. So hopefully the industry gets more practical on this, because some of this stuff is ridiculous. And like, I'm glad that this EPA guy made the change on this whole DEF thing. And I hope more practical, logical sense comes from this. But the fact that they at least are allowing people to go, what is it, 4,000 miles or 3,000 miles? I've seen, I did a video on this, but I don't remember the specifics, but it's like 3,000 or 4,000 miles after you run out of DEF before you go like full limp mode. I believe it's something like that. Yep. That's a whole lot better than in 400 miles.
And I think it's bigger for the truckers. I mean, you can imagine how much DEF those guys are blowing through. I mean, and the headaches that they have when they're on the road and they're idling all night and all the stuff they have to deal with. So
can't even imagine.
I think the farmers and truckers is where they should focus first.
100%. Yeah. I mean, think about this. Productivity in our country is so important. Imagine you got a guy hot shotting across the country, or taking some special steel or something really important across the country, and he gets a DEF injector issue or a DEF sensor or DEF, and all of a sudden this whole thing is halted because the stupid sensors failed or something. This is going to be extremely helpful for productivity increasing in the country.
Well, and one of the things, like he said, R&D to remove it. The thing is, like, if you look at an F-250 that's issued to the government or an F-250 that's issued to anything federal, it comes from the factory with no def.
That's
They're
true.
basically deleted from the factory, so they already
Yep.
know how to do it.
Yep, that's true. That's true. Cool. Well, any other thoughts, guys, or anything else we should share with everybody?
Labor Day. I think Labor Day sales are going to be, like you said, you're going to see 0% on a lot of trucks. Probably see some deals, but if you don't find a good deal, I would just hold tight, because I think September
100%.
there's plenty of stock on everything. If they don't sell what they hope to in Labor Day sales, I think they're going to start to even get more aggressive. So
I agree.
I would think around that October, November, it's going to get deeper. But you should see some good deals this weekend if you're looking for something.
Yeah, it's definitely time to start doing the homework and research. And I always forget, is Truck Month November or March, or is it both?
it's every month.
The official Truck Month, the final edition.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not sure when the official one is.
Yeah, it might be March.
I think it was March, because it's usually around stock show time, like Houston Stock Show, stuff like that. So I think it's March, if I remember right.
Yeah, February, March.
Okay. Cool. Well, excellent. I think we got one last question here, it looks like. We got Team RHO. Please join Jason Samko, and please join Jason and the gang advocating. Yes, that would be pretty neat, actually. I know Jason's a big fan of that too. Totally agree. I did an interview, I don't know if you guys saw that, with John from Boosted Motorsports on his Hurricane swapped Viper, making 930 horse at the wheels. Man, I can't wait. I was just messaging him the other day, just trying to find out like what his next steps are. I know he's popping the motor apart. He's planning to, the one concern with the high output is the ring gaps too tight. So they're going to clearance the rings a little bit to give it a little bit more safety factor when you start adding boost. But I think we're going to see these guys cracking 1,000, 1,200 horsepower with this Hurricane. And I know people are excited about the TRX coming back and the Hellcat. When I start seeing a 3-liter engine making 1,000 horse at the wheels, 800-900 horse, I'm less excited about the TRX, because I just think this is so incredible. This tiny engine is putting out insane numbers like this. So
you remember the 2JZ, right?
This is it. It's an American 2JZ. That's all it is.
It's only like 30 some years late,
I know. Hey, if you're not first, got to be last.
It's amazing to me that, well, everybody could build that engine and they won't, because it's almost too reliable.
Well, I've heard, I don't know how true this is, it's the packaging nightmare of an inline six that's tough. Ram spent a lot of time trying to get this motor packaged in these vehicles. And this is the reason why the RHO, I'm told, got the 8 HP 75 trans, not the 95 trans, because the inline is I think about 4 inches longer than the 6.2 V8. And the bell housing was going to have interference with the firewall. So they had to use the shorter transmission with a little different bell housing. So the packaging's a big issue with these inline engines. So
yeah, it always used to be in the cars with the long hoods.
Exactly. Yep. But I think it'd be cool if Stellantis came out with a Viper or some sort of GT car again with something like that. That'd be pretty interesting. Transaxle like a Corvette or a Mustang GTD, 50-50 weight balance. Try to beat a 640 in a Nuremberg ring. Oh man, that'd be sick.
Do you think people would hate it because it's like the mentality of they're okay with a boosted vet, like a boosted V8, but they're not okay with a boosted inline six, right?
I think there's a lot of truth in that. I think American culture loves the sound of the V8. Yeah. And even if the 6-cylinder will outperform it, I think that people like that. I don't know. I could go either way. I think if it was V6 versus V8, I'm V8 all day long. But inline six, that's different. I just think it's probably a more reliable engine in a lot of cases.
I'm guilty on the supercharged V8. I'm going to feed it, and it's going to talk to me. I mean, it is what it is, right?
It's amazing.
It's going to talk to you. So
100%. I totally get it. Yep. Especially the 6.2. That's so much cooler as far as that visceral feel than the Ford 5.2.
Oh, I did have one thing I wanted to bring up before we close this out. I know we're getting long on this. So y'all know that the Hellcat's been released, right? And the Durangos and all that stuff that Ram's knocking it up. Dodge is going to get them out. But here's the deal, right? If you live in a carb state, you can't get the 6.4 supercharged. Okay. Now let's think about that. What's that going to do to the Raptor R? If Ram can't build a V8 and send it to a carb state. Now I know it's a 6.4 versus a 5.2. What's going to happen to the Raptor R if it can't be sold in carb states and falls under the same rule? Or is it still getting emissions, or is Ford still buying emissions credit because they're going to continue to build the EVs, and that's what's going to allow them to sell in those carb states?
Yeah, and my understanding is the 5.2 being a dual overhead cam motor puts out less greenhouse gas than the suit 6.2. So I think it could already be just the inherent nature of the different part of the different engine. I think that might give it a little bit of grace there. I don't know. That's a great point. Yeah.
Thinking about that the other day when I was driving, I was like,
yeah,
I wonder if they're going to do carb states, no R's. So
yeah,
who knows? But I think that's why still you're getting the EVs. As long as they're building EVs, I think it's okay for them to ship them to carb states. And I think maybe that's what's going to allow it. But with Ram saying, hey, we're getting out of the EVs, I think that's why they're just saying we're not going to ship carb states.
Yeah. I mean, if this whole thing, if it helped one brand drastically, it's Ram. Ford and GM have kind of already went down that path of EV for the cafe stuff. So yeah, Ram is the one that's really going to really come ahead in this whole situation. So, well, cool. That's all I got. I thought that was pretty good. And I know we're going to be doing this again here in a few weeks when we can get JB and Jason back on here, because we got some more fun stuff to talk. As the industry is changing by the week with all this different stuff, man, it's like, I feel like we could do this almost weekly, to be fair. I'd be curious, you guys leave your comments down below. How often would be the right frequency you guys would like to see us all get together and talk about topics? I'd just be curious. Leave your comments.
Yeah, and if they want to drop some topics they'd like to, us to discuss or talk about, drop them in the comments too. Let us know.
Great point, Rocky. Great point. Yep, for sure. Yeah, I mentioned to Car Guy, I'm like, hey, should we get Nate on here? Talk about transmissions. I'd love to see that pole barn background. I'd have to pull out a cigar, I think, to hang with him though.
Yeah, I caught him yesterday. We were doing a Toyota video that hasn't been out yet, but he was at his new building, so he's got his CNC machine there and everything in the background.
Sweet.
And then his big old like 70s Lincoln car. It was kind of funny.
Did he have a Continental? He seems like a Continental guy with suicide doors. Knew it, man. Yeah.
Well, actually, I think it's a Continental. He's got the flip up headlights, and like the 8-foot long hood. And
I'm not an expert. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, he was saying that he was driving that, and I think a lot of people didn't believe him. So then he got in it, and he was streaming and driving while he's like, and I haven't put that video out yet, but I was thinking about just doing it to like a rap song, and just being like, I can totally see him just
cruising down the street in my 6.4.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
Hand over hand, right?
Yeah. Ice cream paint job. Oh, that's great.
As he adjusts the phone over the steering wheel.
Yeah. Is he got the little wheel on the steering wheel too that you kind of palm like on a mower?
He didn't have the wheel. He was just palming it, just he's just skilling it up. So.
Dude, that's great. I love it, man. That's just a true gem. He seems so cool.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah, he's a funny guy.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, getting some comments, leave your feedback. Let us know. We'll do this more often, more different topics. That'd be awesome. Just trying to help you guys out.
Sounds
Peace,
good.
everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Yep.
See ya.